We know that, as I mentioned, Argentina are the next challenge for the Wallabies. I think within the rugby community, Justin, there's certainly an awareness that this is a very good side that's coming to Australia, and it's going to be a massive challenge for the Wallabies to back up. But I think outside rugby, there's a little bit of a sentiment of, we did pretty well in South Africa. Maybe these are people who are not through and through rugby people, casual sports fans who tuned in for the win and the narrow loss in South Africa, but they might be thinking like, well, then we should beat Argentina. For them, they seem to think that Argentina are like, yeah, they'll come and they'll be spirited, but Australia wins this.
Well, therein lies the danger. TRC, you think about the TRC, it's a trophy, but it's not a World Cup campaign, and they're not linked. Right? It's very hard to maintain momentum in TRC. You've got to treat them like blocks, or certainly this is the view that I have. 2 weeks away against South Africa, completely different mindset and squad design and game strategy and mental aptitude required to now play Argentina at home back to back. And we know what Argentina can do. We've seen them beat Australia in Australia, you know, in very hard-fought games. It's a reality that they are an international standard top 5 team, absolutely. And so this is a 2-week block now, and then there's a Bledisloe block. So for the Australian squad to think about form from South Africa and confidence, and it should be a matter, of course, that we're going to enter that arena a better side than we would have if we had played them first, is flawed. It's going to be a huge challenge. They are strong in all the areas that Australia have been challenged in. Aerial contest, we saw the way that they dismantled the All Blacks in the aerial strategy. We know the set piece, all the ingredients for a very tough test match. And then you throw into the conundrum in our bucket, the injury list, and the squad depth is going to be tested for the Wallabies. So without getting into the minutiae of detail, absolutely. The 2 games in Argentina, we are intoxicated by the prospect of being in the hunt for the TRC trophy, and this is, you know, there's one team has lost and one team has won across the board. It's a great TRC tournament to get everyone leaning forward. Argentina is an entirely different prospect.
As a man who's coached both these nations, Check, if you look back and sit back and look at what's to come over the next fortnight, and then tie in the context of World Rugby rankings, the Rugby World Cup draw for 2027 being done back end of the year, how big are these next 2 games for not just Australia, but Argentina as well?
Yeah, well, look, all Test matches are massive, right? That's all there is to it, you know. I think that that's the great nature of Test footy, right? The issue will be, in my point of view, I think the TRC is the bigger thing at play. I don't think the Rugby World Cup draw, having had experience now of seeing European Cup and Champions League in soccer go to a round of 16 format, which we'll have in the Rugby World Cup here in Australia. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it makes qualification a different beast, and it can swing things around so that it's not necessarily the first place team playing against the 8th place team like it would in a quarterfinal scenario. It throws up different contests. It'll be easier to qualify, and you could get a good draw in a round of 16, which could hit you in a better draw for a quarterfinal, as opposed to the old system where it was a lot more cutthroat when it come down to the top 8 get through, you play quarterfinals, and that's where you go from there. So I don't think that'll be on mine, but you've got to remember Argentina weren't too far away from the TRC last year. It was under that last game in South Africa, excuse me, where they missed out. They won that game, they win the trophy. So it's a pivotal series, this two-match series here, and like Justin says, having coached it, you do have to take it like that. You have to take the 2-match series, the interplay from one week to the other. What tactics are we going to use in game 1 as opposed to game 2? Who are we going to play? Who are we going to roll out? And I think that I didn't know that Will wasn't going to be here. Like, that's going to be a huge room for someone else inside of the squad to pick up. I don't know who you think.
Is there someone that springs to mind that could be a like for Will Skelton replacement?
In the Australian team? Well, from what I saw in the...
Any small truck.
No, I think...
Anyone that's got a removalist truck back at the front.
Well, he's obviously been exceptional in his performances. I think a player who's evolved and changed since I would have coached him is Lucan.
Yep.
He showed a lot of menace in the, I can't say the word I normally say here, right? He showed a lot of menace in those lead-up games in the Lions series, And if he knows that's the role he has to play, he looks like he's got the maturity now to maybe play that role without being too across the line. But it's got to be picked up not by one person perhaps, but all members of the pack have got to probably just lift that a little bit more, because it's also a signal to Argentina, right? We left our enforcer, we're letting him go back to France, and they're thinking, well, I know if I'm coaching them, they're thinking, well, they're not taking us seriously here as a team that are coming over, because they're letting one of their best forwards go back to France to go to his team and not play the test matches.
Would you bring that up in a team meeting to fire them up?
I might.
With a golf club?
I don't know, but
16 final on the dressing room shed, everywhere
Look,
you go,
I think
screensavers.
the part for Australia will be it's no, from what I saw of the games, there wasn't a lot of rocket science behind that success. Even line series as well, I thought Australia were pretty good there, as well as the games in South Africa, because they played with good physicality, which was led by him. And then the rest of it was the stuff Australia's been doing for most of the time anyway. So they just need to all pick up a bit of his slack and understand that is a real thing. It's not just something he can bring, it's something everyone can bring.
Is there anything that's changed in the psyche or the setup of the Argentinian national side in the last 5 years? They've been a wonderful international rugby team for many decades. They've made it to the final stage of World Cups. You faced them in a semi-final at the World Cup in 2015, semi-finalists at the last World Cup under your tutelage. Have knocked off New Zealand several times for the first time ever in Argentina on the weekend, first time ever period back in 2020, beat the Lions this year. They are now genuine international rugby contenders. Is there anything that's changed that's just taken them to that upper echelon in the last 4 to 5 years?
I think there's a few things. The first thing is belief. Right? I think they were a very self-deprecating team. I remember, and I don't think they'll mind me talking about this. Mario Ledesma asked me to go and help him with him, and we played New Zealand here in Australia in the COVID series. It was my first I was in there with them after they've got out of the bubble thing, and we were in together. And then it was the night before, and it was the jersey presentation. So obviously it was a bit odd for me. I'd never been in another team's jersey presentation before. And I was sitting in there, and he swung to me like, Cheika, you got something to say? Like I didn't know what to do. And I said to the players, you got to understand that you are a very high quality, good team. I think you don't believe in yourselves like we see you as an outsider, the threat that you bring. I don't think you see that yourselves, and you should believe in yourselves more, because there is some really, real quality people, humans and players inside of that squad. I think over the years now, since that sort of period, Mario had a lot to do with that, Ledesma. I think even though it was hard for him, breaking a lot of that sort of set up how it was before, I think that their belief has improved, as well as excellent training on the basic skills, running corners, shifting balls in short space, short, long, passing, tackle technique and aggression on the basics of the game. I think they've really focused on that as the major part. Well, we focused on it a lot when I was there, and also now I know with Felipe, he's a stickler for that, about the basics of your game, what will put together a game that can win under pressure.
Where did the emotion on that day that Argentina beat the All Blacks in Parramatta rank in your coaching career? Oh, that was an epic day. I was covering that game.
Yeah, it was great. I was a bit... It was all very weird for me, because like I said, it was another country, and a country I've now come to love. Obviously, I've got so many I'm so lucky, to have been able to coach at 2 teams of places, of countries that I love, right? So it was just to see that, like all teams that win, whether it was the Waratahs, Leinster, the emotion that players have in that moment after the game, when you do something that you didn't think you could ever do, is something extremely special. And if It happens at young ages. It happens through all your ages, whatever sport you're playing. When you do something you never thought, and they never thought they could do that until they did it. And it's no coincidence that they've subsequently done it on multiple occasions since.
I think Argentina also have benefited from, for a long time, a bit like France as well. They were great borrowers of different parts of different ecosystems, and they saw what a back row looks like, so they tried to develop that body shape and what a front row, and you got to cry when you sing the anthem, full of emotion and big macro movements. But what they've done and what they did in Super Rugby as well, and then now they're out, but they've got players placed around the world who are all onboarding IP and then bringing it back into that environment. And then people like Cheika, when he was there, Mario, they shaped that and moulded that in amongst the belief, the positive reinforcement. This is what a good action looks like. This is what you're doing. This is what you're bringing to the environment. This is how good you are in the hierarchy. That's what you can see when Argentina, they have a plan. They have a plan that lasts for 80 minutes and not just the anthem and the first 10 minutes and a punch-up.
Yeah, I think there's something that also that people don't see that is going on there. I don't want to be, I know we're talking about them because they're the next opponent. When those players go back to Argentina to prepare for a test match, the first place they are going is to their club sides to go for a barbecue and watch their teams play on the weekend. There's that culture around their club rugby and still the connection of all players to their clubs. Like when we're on tour, they're always arguing about it when their clubs are playing. They're watching it on the phone, fighting each other, you know, about which club's better, and, you know, they're getting into, and they have a real, because there isn't Super Rugby, and there always has been that affinity to their local clubs and that connection, direct connection from the national team right back to their club rugby and therefore junior rugby and all the things that go on there.